G'day folks. I'm often asked what type of four-wheel drive I've got, and I never really answer the question, nor do I show it in my videos. I've created the Stig. Those of you that are familiar with the TV show Top Gear will be familiar with the character the Stig. Well, here on Robbie Fishing, the Stig is my car. Now in this video I'm going to come clean with what sort of car I've got, what sort of four-wheel drive I've got, and I'm going to tell you a few things about my cars. But anyway, for now, I'm going up the bush in my four-wheel drive on its last hurrah. Well, you'll never know what sort of car that I've got because the badge is missing from the steering wheel. It's white. Now I'm not even in four-wheel drive here. This track I'm going up today isn't really a four-wheel drive track, but it's good to have four-wheel drive and know that if I do come unstuck or if it does get slippery or if I do get bogged, I can lock my hubs in. But for now I'm just in two-wheel drive doing a bit of off-road driving. I love these types of places. On a lot of these types of roads you don't actually need four-wheel drive. There's a lot of things that make up the practicality of a four-wheel drive, and one of those things is ground clearance. And in 95% of the places that I go fishing or go adventuring, I need good ground clearance, but I don't necessarily need four-wheel drive. This is one such place. Ground clearance is everything. Just a little side tracking here. Just checking out the water. It's quite dirty. This is where I caught that blackfish that I kept for my blackfish catch and cook video. There wasn't nearly this much water flowing down here then though. That track there, that is a four-wheel drive track. It doesn't look too bad here now, and in the summer you get up to the top, no worries, you know, two-wheel drive, but it'd probably be a bit slippery now. I reckon you'd need a four-wheel drive to get to the top, but when you get over the top of the hill, it drops down quite steep. It's very like a clay surface, very slippery in the rain, and a four-wheel drive is a must. Unlike the road that I'm on here now, that's not too bad. It's got a good surface. At an altitude of 804 metres above sea level, 805 metres above sea level, I've made it to the historic grave of Emma Heller. I'm not going to go into that because otherwise it'll make the video too long. But this historic grave is only a stone's throw from Stringybark Creek campground, which is just over there, and that's where I'm heading now. That's where Ned Kelly and his lads shot up the coppers back in the 1800s. Now, whether Ned was in the wrong or the police were in the wrong, I'm not going to buy into that debate because I wasn't there. Anyway, the moment of truth. What sort of car have I got? There it is. It's a 1993 Holden Jackaroo, and I'm a little bit dizzy. But that's the car that's been behind the scenes of so many of my fishing adventures. It's an old bomb. It's an old bomb. It's a bush truck, but it has been super reliable and it has taken me on so many adventures. It's got a lot of character, and I'll go for a bit of a walk around it with you shortly. But that's the car, 1993 Holden Jackaroo. I think it's a 3.5 V6 or 3.2 V6. 3.2 litre V6. I've loved this car. This car has been absolutely awesome, but it has been so expensive to run. It is crazy heavy on juice. It's got 310,000 kilometres on it, and I have just ran it fair into the ground to the point that it's now stuffed. When you own a car and you just run it in and run it in and run it into the ground, it gets to the point where you think, is it worth investing money in? It's never let me down except once, and that's when I was camping with Rowan early this year up in Lake William Hovel, and we were about to pack up our gear and drive back to our camp. Car wouldn't start. I'd done the starter motor. I had to get a new starter motor, and I got the starter motor and got it serviced, and it cost me hundreds of dollars. But it had the original starter motor in it from 1993. Last year I had to get a new clutch put in it. The year before I had to get a whole heap of timing gear put in it. Every year it's costing me a fair bit of money, and the fact of that, it's becoming more and more unroadworthy, and it's cost so much money to run. I'm trading it in and I'm buying another car. Now, this isn't my only car. I've got a confession to make, and this'll give you a bit of a light bulb moment in a minute. You'll scratch your head and say, ah, now I know. I've got two cars. I've got this car, and I've got a little silver Mazda 2. It's like a little stereotypical old lady's car. It's very small, it's very cheap and economical to run, and it is an absolute ripper. I love that car. I'm trading both cars in and getting another car. I'm going back to one car, one registration. But the little Mazda is so cheap to run. Whenever I go over to, say, Waranga Basin, which is about 2 hours that way, or Greens Lake, which is about 2 hours that way, or Yarana, which is about an hour and a half that way, or Narandra, which is about nearly 2.5 hours that way, I usually take the Mazda because it's so much cheaper to run than what the Jackaroo is. The Jackaroo's got the roof racks on the roof for the kayak, but it's so expensive that I just don't like running it too far, and it's not as reliable, being so old and clunky. It's just not it's not a good car to travel in. It's not air conditioned. It hasn't got electric windows. It's old, but it's a great bush truck. So the Mazda is an awesome car, but the light bulb moment. You know how in a lot of my videos I forget stuff? I often forget things. Oh, I forgot my tape measure, or I forgot my rod holders, or I forgot this, or I forgot that. This is why. Because usually if I forget something, it's in the other car. Yeah, I can open the back of the Mazda, the hatch, and there'll be 4 or 5 tape measures there. Then I'll go crayfishing and I can't measure my crayfish because I've forgotten my tape measures because they're in the Mazda. Or my rod holders, my Simon Humphrey rod holder and my other rod holder, they're in the back here now, I think. But they bounce around between the two cars, and you can guarantee that whichever car I go fishing in on the day, it hasn't got it in it. This has been the close to home car. The Mazda's been the travelling car. Now it's starting to rain. In fact, I think it's almost starting to snow. I saw a bit of a snowflake come past. I think it was a bit of sleet. It's very, very cold today. I'm going to throw my glasses in the car. Then I'm going to take you for a bit of a walk around. And I've got to warn you that this car is very, very messy. The roof is still in there. There was a big black spider in there, and every time I drove it, he'd stick his head out this corner here for months. Haven't seen him for a while though. I don't know where he went. Right, if you're going to have a bush truck like this, just an old knock around that you can take out the bush, you can thrash it, trash it, go through the mud, get it bogged, do whatever, there are some things that are critically important, and good tyres are one of them. These are Toyo all-terrain open country tyres. I think they're actually a light truck tyre. The best thing I'd done was invest in a good set of tyres. They have just been fantastic. I've really liked having those tyres on here. I actually punctured one a while back right here on the corner of the sidewall and had to replace the whole tyre. I still had about 80% tread, and they're $250 a tyre. But they have just been excellent tyres. I've loved them tyres. Look at this. This is the first thing. It was catching here. Every time I opened it, I went clonk, 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 clonk. In here, we've had to disconnect all this because it had all been welded. I never noticed that when I got it, but that had been welded, so the previous owner had issues with it. So we had to end up just cutting that off completely because the door wouldn't open properly. But then it started catching down here, look. So my mechanic, Sam Prestiani at SP Automotive in Wangaratta, I can't speak highly enough of him. He's a fantastic mechanic. He fixed it with tin snips and just cut into it for me like that. But now it catches down here sometimes as well. And these are the reasons I'm getting rid of it. Apart from that, there's a bit of a bearing going in the gearbox, but also just these little cosmetic things are becoming a nuisance now. But these things add character. We'll wander around the front. Hasn't got a bull bar. I used to have a Pajero. I had a Mitsubishi Pajero with a bull bar, and I never hit so many kangaroos. But because this hasn't got a bull bar, I don't know whether I just drive it a bit more carefully or not, but I've never hit any kangaroos. It's always dirty. It's never clean. Sometimes I give it a quick wash at the car wash, but I never go into great detail and clean it. All this here is all loose. I can actually push that and it'll go click and it'll all hang down. And sometimes when I go over a bump, it falls off. I was driving at 100 kilometres an hour a couple of years ago, and I won't name the shop in Wangaratta, but I bought a second-hand tyre. I had 4 tyres with about 50% tread, and I staked the side of this one, and I wanted to match the sort of the tread grip, the amount of tread. So I bought a second-hand one with about 50% tread, just to start that all run down evenly. Had it on there for not even 2 days. 100 kilometres an hour out near Catamatite. Bang! The tyre blew up. It was a retread, and I had no idea. the tread all threw off, smashed all that off there, put black marks all over the car, which didn't bother me, but this was always a bit of an issue. And when I went back and told the guy, he sort of said, oh, really? And that's all. No. Oh, sorry, mate. Nothing like that. So anyway, there's a bit of a story. These old cars have a lot of stories. The back jack. Now, this, I am the only person that can open this. This does Brett's head in. He cannot open it. There's a certain way. You can't just walk up and open it. You've got to hold it, lift it, wiggle it and shake it. I've got to first go. Sometimes you can bloody shake it 8 or 9 times. If you look in the back here, these rods are here because I was up at Stanley the other day with Holly and we had a bit of a fish for some trout in the stock dam at Stanley and done no good. Gumboots live here. Chainsaw's been living here since I got it. There's me Simon Humphrey rod holder. So if I ever forget it, it's because it's in the other car. Just a fishing lures. Now pink is, I know what you're going to say, it's a bit of a girly colour, a bit of a gay colour, I don't care. I bought Holly some new sheets a couple of years ago. These door seals are stuffed around the outside of the door here. They even still exist. This one here, yeah, here we go. It's all broken here. You can see it comes down here and then it's all broken off there. There's the brake. So there's a lot of dust in, so I put a sheet over the back. And now I just leave that there. If I want to get some firewood for me bonfire at the back or me tandoor oven, I just throw it on top of that pink sheet. There's some floats from crane nets that are still on the bottom of the river. There's a tape measure. There's a tin of corn from my last carp fishing adventure. There's a lure container, an unsnagger, a few flies, a few more flies, some striped tiger yabby oil. Some 4-pound Maxima Ultra Green, my favourite fishing line for trout and redfin. A couple of striped tigers. There's the back of my car has always been like that, but you wait till you see the back seat. The back seat is even worse. Now the Mazda doesn't look like this. The Mazda's the car that I sort of, it's dirty at the moment, but I usually keep it clean. I've got my little barbecue and some noodles and stuff in here because I'm going to have a picnic while I'm out the bush today. I'm going to cook myself some noodles, my camera gear, a jumper which I should be wearing because it's bloody freezing. Down here with camera tripod, me Camelback drink bottle, a metal detector, a tomahawk, a machete. That's what I use when I'm fishing a lot of the time. And just a little esky bag over there. There's some jumper leads under there as well as a 12-volt power inverter for charging my laptop and stuff when I'm out the bush camping. Up here I've got roof racks. Now this is another thing that's annoying me. The roof racks are so high. Like, I'm 6 foot tall, or just a shade under. Look how high up they are. So I've got to really lift up high to get my kayaks on the roof. My kayak on the roof, and then I've got to throw the rope over. Usually I've got to stand on an esky or something to tie it on, and it's really sort of awkward. It's inconvenient. The new car that I'm getting, which will be my new Stig, will be much easier than that. Go inside here, it's about as clean as you'd expect it to be. Of course, we've got a mask. I'm an asthmatic and I've got an exemption, but I do try and wear it wherever I can, and 9 times out of 10 I can wear it. But there are days. Just recently I came off Mount Buffalo and I just had a bit of an asthma attack and I was sort of shaking a bit from too much Ventolin. Any asthmatic can relate to that, and I was struggling, and I walked into a cafe to grab a drink and the lady refused to serve me. And she said, I'll serve you from outside. And I said, what about the 4 people sitting at the table? She said, they're seated. I said, but they're no less of a threat than I am. I said, I've got an exemption. She said, no, can't serve you. So she walked me, escorted me to the door of the shop. She says, now, would you like me to serve you from the outside? And I said, I wouldn't let you serve me if you were the last shop on earth. Right, so there's the jackaroo. If you look under here, don't know whether you'll see it or not, but 320,581 kilometres. It's got a new stereo. My brother-in-law, my late brother-in-law, Frank, wired that up before he passed away years ago. He put that in, so it's got Bluetooth. Handheld UHF. It's always good to have in the car when you're up in places like where I am now, just in case you get stuck. So there's the Robbie Fishing bush truck. The Robbie Fishing car. It's a fantastic car. It's just starting to get to that point where it's costing me too much money, so I'm getting rid of it. Now, I love having a four-wheel drive, but I'm not a serious four-wheel driver. I don't go looking for super steep tracks to climb up. I don't want to look up my bonnet at the sky. I just love it so that I can come to places like this, and if it gets, say I came in here in a two-wheel drive, which you can do easily, if it got slippery and I got stuck, all I've got to do is lock the hubs in and get out. I've been up and down some pretty hairy four-wheel drive tracks, and I've done a lot of four-wheel driving in my time, but I just love having four-wheel drive as a security to get out of sticky situations and to be able to access these wonderful places like this and anywhere else I go, knowing that I'm going to go home tonight and not end up bogged on the side of the road. Stringybark Creek camping ground. Stringybark Creek camping area. This is where Ned Kelly and his boys shot the coppers years ago, just over the back here. Now, some people say Ned was a cop killer, some say he's a hero. I don't have an opinion. The policing was much different back then and I wasn't around. I don't have an opinion. One thing about this car, it hasn't mattered whether it's cold or hot or anything, it always starts first time. It's warm now, but even when it's on a frosty cold morning, never ever ever once, apart from when I would break down when the starter motor shit itself when I was camping with Rowan, I've never had it fail to start. Always started. Been very, very reliable like that. Stringybark Creek campground. Now this is two-wheel drive accessible. You don't need a four-wheel drive to get into here. Quite a big campground, a couple of people camping over there. Stringybark Creek camping area. Please take your rubbish home. All the rules and regs. A little COVID sign. There's a camp there. Lots of camp space here, look. A really nice campsite, this one. I won't shine the camera at other people's camps. There's heaps of campsites over the back there. There's a toilet block just there. There's someone else camping over the back there. Another nice campsite here and a picnic table. That might be where I'll cook my lunch, I think. More campsites. Another picnic table over here. This is where the walking track starts for the Kelly tree, where the shooting actually took place. It's only a couple hundred metres, not even that, just down there in that bit of a gully. This is the walking track into the Kelly tree. The tree where it's believed Ned Kelly shot the policeman years ago. Here it is, folks. This is the tree where it's all said to have taken place. One of the most historic events in Australia's history. Apparently this is the site. I don't think it's the original tree. All the information is on this board right here. But this is believed to be the very site where Ned Kelly and his gang shot and killed 3 police officers in the mid to late 1800s. I think it was 1878. I'm not a Ned Kelly historian, but it was around about that time. Very, very popular tourism spot here in northeast Victoria, and very significant as part of Australia's history. Now I've come back to the Stringybark Creek campground to cook myself some lunch. I've just gone and grabbed my my stove and stuff out of the car to cook my noodles, and you wouldn't read about it. You would not read about it. I've got my MSR Whisper Light stove, a great big bottle of water, the fuel, the noodles, but nothing to boil the water in. I totally forgot to put a, I didn't totally forget, I got a little saucepan set out and set it on the bench, and they're still on the bench. Can you believe that? I wonder if I can MacGyver my way into cooking myself these noodles for lunch somehow. I'll see if I can MacGyver something up. Alright, I've just lit the little MSR whisper light, shellite stove. I'm going to attempt to fill this can with cold water, sit it on the top if I can, and I'm going to attempt to boil water in the can. I don't know how I'll go, but I'll give it a crack. I assume that as long as there's water in it, the heat won't melt through the aluminium. Alright, so far so good, it just sits there. I don't know how this is going to go. It's worth a try. So, Coca-Cola kettle. Hey, check this out. I've just started filling my next kettle. There's a bit of steam coming out of that one. It's all going to plan, and it started snowing. It's just eased up a bit. I should have started filming a minute or so earlier. Only very, very wet, sort of sleety snow. You can sort of see the wet snowflakes landing on my jumper. A little bit colder and it'll start snowing. It's snowing lightly, but very wet, sleety snow. There we go. It's snowing. Wet snow. Not cold enough to settle. Look, we're boiling. I've got my noodles ready here. I've got one more obstacle to overcome, and that's picking it up. I've got to pick it up. I'm going to use this dirty old AC Delco Fuchsia's beanie that Straubs gave me a few years ago. I'm going to use that as like a mitten. The Coke kettle has worked. Now this is the last hurdle. If this works, then I'll get to have noodles for lunch. Yes! It's working. You beauty. Now I'll put my other kettle on. I'll put the flavouring in and then let it sit. Tell you what, even MacGyver would be seriously impressed with this. Now this is one good reason why you should never clean the floor of your car. If I was a neat freak, I wouldn't be eating lunch today. Right, we're boiling. Bit of steam on the go. You can hear it boiling in there. The Pepsi kettle has worked. It's time to dish up my second serving of noodles. Well, I've just finished my lunch and I've come up the hill a little bit, and it's snowing. It's only light snow, small snowflakes. It's wet, it's not settling, but it is snowing lightly, which is really cool. Right, it's been snowing here for about probably only 1 or 2 minutes, and it's already starting to build up on the ground in places. Snowing quite heavy now. Absolutely beautiful. Bit of build up here. I think they call this a dusting. They've got a dusting of snow on some of these brackens. Absolutely beautiful. You can see the snow building up on the door of the car here and up on the roof. Check that out, the snow has eased off now. We've just got some nice dry flakes just slowly wafting down. Check this out. How seriously awesome is this? That is just so cool. It is absolutely puking down now, and everything is starting to go white. That's cool, it's settling. The snow's starting to settle, and it's just awesome. It's getting pretty fair income now, it's starting to settle on the road. awesome. The reason I came up this way today was I was secretly hoping that I'd get to experience this. I just love being in the mountains when it snows. The old jackaroo's getting a bit of a blanket of snow on it. Only a half a centimetre or so. So pretty. Let's set one down here. So I might get a photo of that on its last journey, a keepsake. This is next level awesome. Look at that, how pretty. Loving it. Oh, it's full in my eyes. Folks, what a fitting send-off for my jackaroo that served me so well for so many years. I couldn't have asked for a better way to spend its last hurrah up in the mountains, up in the high country. Have a look at that, absolutely awesome. Looks good, doesn't it? Anyhow folks, it's time to say goodbye to the jackaroo. I have had a fantastic day today. What a fitting send-off for the jackaroo. This is the last adventure of the jackaroo and it's just been absolutely wonderful. I couldn't have asked for a better final adventure. Folks, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, want to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye, old girl.